reentry journey?
What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating.
Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion.
Rebirth.
Intentional.
It's bigger than just walking down your probation and parole. It's changing your mindset, lifestyle, and never returning to prison again. It's the reentry journey with Cardell Sims.
All right, this is another episode of the Reentry Journey, and today our guest has been through some things and came through the fire, grew through the struggles and the things that she had faced, and I just want to get into her bio so you can really understand what we're talking about. Our guest today, Miss Janet Lynn Garcia, a resilient U.S. Marine Corps veteran, shared her compelling journey on CBN 700 Club in 2018. From enduring adverse childhood experiences to battling personal hardships, she faced abuse, family struggles, and a near-fatal accident. She suffered from her own brokenness addictions to alcohol, drugs, looking for love in all the wrong places, and on and off mental health issues and torments that never seemed to end. However, an event took place that allowed her to quit cold turkey and set her on a path of healing and wholeness. A transformative encounter with truth marked the beginning of her spiritual development journey, leading to healing, forgiveness, and restoration. In the Marine Corps, Janet found purpose and now a mission to support women in recovery. Now pursuing a master's and doctoral degree with an expected graduation date May 2025, she employs a faith-based approach to empower women in peer leadership, bridging the gap between ACE and spiritual growth. Janet's mission is clear: guide women in breaking free from dysfunction, healing from toxic stress, and experiencing true liberation. The military never leave a man behind, and in this case, she declares, "Not on my watch, woman." Welcome to the Reentry Journey, Miss Janet Lynn Garcia. Welcome to the Reentry Journey.
Well, thank you so much, Cardell, and all your listeners out there. I am so grateful to be with you today. And this is not happenstance that I met you. So I am truly grateful out of the blue, right? Sometimes we got to make those cold call turkey phone calls to try to go get our cookies, to go get what we need to go get for our purpose and helping others in this journey.
And most definitely. And on top of that, we have to be consistent with it. And I think that's what drew me back to reaching back out to you, the consistency. So I really appreciate you reaching out, making the introduction, and now you're on the reentry journey. So thank you. When you started, can you share about some of the adverse childhood experiences that you faced growing up and how they impacted you?
Yes, sir. Well, my journey actually started born and raised outside of Chicago, Illinois. Chi-town, yes. My parents, I was the only child, but my whole entire family is from the island of Puerto Rico. So my parents made way to Illinois through uncles who were in the Army. And there's an army outside of Chicago called Joliet. So they settled in a small cornfield town over there. And my father was uneducated. They're both uneducated. They came from hard times. So, you look at your history and the indigenous people of Puerto Rico, were just a mixed bunch, right? And so, my father's side was harsh. My mother's side was just horrible. So, alcoholism, mental illness. Her mother committed suicide, when she was young. I guess she witnessed her mother committing suicide. Wow. She was one of 5. And then her father died of liver cirrhosis, so a lot of the drinking.
Mhm.
But she got out through some cousins and uncles, and so settled there. She's walking past, meets my father, and my father was like, well, here's the plan. I'm going to get you pregnant and we're going to get married. And that's me. So
Oh, wow.
my mother was 15 in 8th grade. So she basically quit school to have me. And they were supposed to live happily ever after. But by the time I was 5 years old, they divorced. The thing that what happened with my childhood life, when you see trauma, right? I say that I saw so much trauma at the early ages. I can remember 3 years old, just waking up in the middle of the night. There was, just a lot of dysfunction, drinking, brawl out fights, and you're sitting there witnessing this with, family and friends and things like that. So, that's kind of hard on your
Right.
mental state, right? So they divorced when I'm 5, and then my mom remarried. But about the age of 7, we were in a near fatal drunk driving accident caused my mother and my stepfather. And then mental illness back in the 70s wasn't so prevalent as it is today.
Oh,
And,
no, nowhere near.
yes. And so then you couple that with drugs and alcohol and kind of abandonment and neglect. That's where my father stepped back in, and my mom lost custody. And only one time in my life did she ever get me back. But after that, it wasn't a very stable background. So it was a lot of moving around, the dysfunction, the drinking, the alcohol, the no stability, moving around a lot. Not a lot of encouragement. I mean, just kind of back and forth with different family members. But an event happened when I was about 14 where I entered into the foster care systems. So I was in foster care with my father. There was an event with my father. So then I was in foster care system in my entire years of high school. I stayed with 2 different families, and they gave me, the stability that I wanted or was seeking. But, your heart gets really hard, and I'm living with all kinds of different strangers. Now, I deeply cared for my second family. The first family aged out. They were a little bit older and they didn't want to do foster care anymore. And I lived with another family that were married, and then they would take in all kinds of children because the mother was in the Department of Children and Family Services as a social worker.
Oh, okay.
So we had just a lot of children and a lot of young teenage women. I still have embraced, found everybody on Facebook, and it's just been a great, family reunion. But, we lost touch for a while, but we got back together. But my high school years was just getting in and out of trouble. I started my own juvenile delinquency at the age of 8, or I'm sorry, 8th grade, kind of starting to get into the bad scene, the groups of friends that would just accept you because you didn't feel worthy of hanging out. Our mental state was just kind of all off. But I would just keep trying. There was something in me that just kept trying, kept seeking, kept looking, just kept moving. The one thing, in high school, by my senior year, my foster parents, there was infidelity. So they broke up, and it was very, very hurt for all of us because we had to separate, like close to graduation.
And when that breakup happened, when they broke up, did it take you back to when your parents split up?
Well, my mom had remarried. She'd had 4 marriages total. My
Okay.
father had 3 marriages total. My mom had moved away to Detroit, Michigan, and she was just very, very, like I said, just never very much into drugs and alcohol. So we had like a time where we didn't even speak for like 10 years. You know,
Okay.
I had a lot of hatred in my heart towards my family for a long, long time. But then in this high school time, living with this family, you know, they really meant a lot to me. But when we split up because of the infidelity, I graduated, and my social worker tells me, this is a conversation I will never forget. My social worker says, "What are you going to do outside of high school?" And I had started working at 16. So I said, I had no vision for my life. I just thought I was going to work and live. That's it.
Right.
And he said, I want you to go to college. I want you to apply for college. And I was like, my first thought was, I'm stupid and I'll never amount to anything.
Wow.
And I said, well, how am I going to get into college? I just felt like I couldn't. I'm
Like,
not
yeah, like,
smart
what
enough.
you mean? How's this gonna happen?
Yes. And he said, well, I want you to apply. So he helped me to apply. And I actually got accepted. So when I left for college, I was pretty much a ward of the state. So I basically aged out and went off to college by myself.
Did you get a check? A monthly check?
I did. I got accepted through a Pell Grant. And so, but I had to work. So I worked to the bone. I worked in fear. I worked to survive. I worked and went to school. And it was by a miracle that I graduated in 5 years and not 4, because I had to switch my major. Again, I had no direction. Like, what is my career going to be? Well, let me do this, but then I'll change and do that. And, you know, so I finally graduate. And I had a job in downtown Chicago as a paralegal and working on the 42nd floor of a law firm. And 6 months in, I was not happy. And I was like, this is what I went to school. Desk jobs feel like a ball and chain to me. And I'm such a free spirit. So I had some friends that were in the service, I think, and they're the ones that gave me the seed about the military. And then one day I just said, I used to run. I used to always kind of take care of myself physically. So I was always in the gym, or I was always
okay.
I saw some people doing boot camp style working out. And then I had the seed of the military. And then I said, I'm joining the Marines. And I called the recruiters in South Side of Chicago and joined from there. Now, I was in a very broken state at that point, emotionally, mentally, like physically I was strong, but mentally and emotionally I was such a mess. My junior year of college, I attempted to cut myself in pain of my past, not understanding what that was all about. Well, neglect and abandonment is going to follow you. You know, when you don't, and then you don't feel worthy, you have no direction. Even still, when I was in school, I was in a lot of pain. I was, like I mentioned, looking for love in all the wrong places until I realized, wait a minute, I need a relationship with my father. So I reached out to my father and reconciled with him. And things started to like kind of look up. I get to boot camp, military boot camp, and I already had a degree. So my drill instructors pulled me aside in a secret meeting basically and said, what are you doing here? You have a degree. You should be an officer. And I was like, what's that? Nobody told me. Nobody told me, not my MEPS recruiter or anybody told me. They saw that I had a low ASVAB score. So they just kind of used me as their monthly quota. And then I was just encouraged, you can go back home, or you can keep moving forward. And at that time I was in a very terrible relationship, and I was pregnant and I had an abortion. And that was something I'm not proud of, but I did receive my healing on that. And so, like I mentioned, when I entered into the service, I was a hot mess internally. But something kept driving me forward. I just could not stop. I was just like, okay, when I got into the service, I absolutely loved it. I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I would have stayed 20 years in the service, but I met my husband in the service. He began to be that unconditional love piece that began to start my healing process. When I was 27 years old, and I served 2 tours in the military. And
thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I accelerated. I pushed myself. Leadership development. I stayed in the leadership development piece. I love being part of this military machine, working with so many different people, learning and growing and being a representative of my unit. I was stationed in Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, Arizona, and I love the heat. I love the hot, and I just love to serve. My second tour was Marine Security Guard, and I was going to go overseas and represent our interest overseas in the embassy. But then an event happened with my mother. I met her, saw her again after that span, and I brought her back into my life. And I tried to go and just really help her and support her, because I saw people taking advantage of her, and I didn't like that at all. And so she became my basically my beneficiary in the military. So you can't continue that duty if you're going to have a dependent.
Right.
Yeah. So I brought my family back into my life because there was something in me that was showing me their pain, showing me their brokenness, showing me what they went through. And then I just had this aha moment, like, how could I imagine them to take care of me if they were young and they had their own struggles, they had their own pain they needed to process. And so a huge piece of me began to forgive. And then this is a long story, but we say long story short, I received my salvation. I accepted the God who created my life. And then I began to pursue him with all my heart. And then I began still even more leadership tracks, even more personal leadership development. I began to take spiritual assessments, different assessments about my life or who I am as a person, because I had to seek deep in my heart and say, well, who am I? What is my purpose in this life? Inner reflection, right? I love that about your story, Cardell. You had to inner reflect. We had to inner reflect, and it take us a little bit of time. I heard your story, watched your story. It took you like 6 months until you really began to believe and take it on for yourself and own it.
Right.
And so that's kind of that journey, strength test, assessments that said, wait a minute, you're a coach and you're a mentor. And then more aha moments kept coming, more little pieces and clues. I say there's a big puzzle of our life, right? We can get the border, but we need to fill in those little pieces, because there's a beautiful picture that wants to be made about your life. And all these were fragmented. I was a fragmented woman, fragmented, so broken. But all the pieces started coming into place for that big, beautiful picture. And so,
why did you think it was important for you during this process of your journey to take them assessments?
Actually, it was being part of my church leadership team. We were just doing it as a leadership team, and they were changing their branding for the community. And while we were in this class, I was learning about my strengths, and I started to connect with what the paper was saying. Wait a minute, this is true. And this is true about me. And this is true about me, because we can't be everything to all people. But we can have ownership for who we are as a person. And if the society or, our mistakes are bombarding us, saying, labeling us, you take on those labels. And I'm not a person that wants to take any labels anymore now that I know what I know now. And so here's the thing, military, you serve, you pay into your educational benefits. And by the grace of God, he has allowed me the opportunity to go back and get my master's. Because I was like, I paid into this, and I served for this. And if I don't take advantage of this opportunity that's been afforded to me, I'm going to lose it. And so I went and used my GI Bill for my master's in organizational leadership. And then disability benefits are now paying for my doctorate. And it's all been leadership. And I was like, okay, but what is this all for? My husband encouraged me. We've been together for 23 wonderful years, 3 beautiful children.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
23 years. Woo.
I was healed from barrenness. I was healed from mentally, emotionally, physically, you name it. It's been a total overhaul 180. How I was able to break my addiction to alcohol. Alcohol was the big one. Binge drinker, heavy drinker, was to stop the generational patterns of dysfunction. So we were sociable drinkers when I was still in the last tour of my service. And we had friends over watching a boxing match back then. And from the kitchen to the living room, I saw my daughter. She was walking like 13, 14, 15 months old, walking. And I saw her walk up to the couch, and there was an empty beer bottle on the floor. And I saw her go like this. And that was all it took for me to see, I'm done. So I quit cold turkey. I said, I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't want this for my child. I don't want this for the next generation. And so that's what helped me to quit. And, drugs was just drugs.
When you seen that, did it kind of, that moment, you kind of flash back to when you was about that age? And some of the things that was going on during that time?
Because you say you never will do something. You'll never be like this. I'll never do that. I'll never be like my mother. I'll never drink. I'll never do these things. But I was exposed to it at such a young age. I took my first drink at 13. And it was hard liquor. And from hard liquor, I mean, it was over. I could drink like they said, they would label my mom, she could drink with the men and drink them under the table. And that's exactly how I was until I laid it down. And so I've been clean, from it for 23 years and, a little over that. So, I just decided that I wanted, and then seeking for your purpose. Well, I'm born, you're born, you live. Well, what's the purpose for my life? And so after those assessments, it said speaker, writer, I sought to hear the voice of God, faith-based, right? And I took it seriously. I went on a journey to hear God's voice. I was running around a local lake here in my community, and I began to hear him. And I literally saw him share with me, you're my scribe and storyteller. And I think, okay, well, what does that mean? But see, there's always this purpose behind what's really inside of us. And I love now as a coach to draw that out of people. Like you have a calling. We've all been called, but we have a chosen purpose for this life. And you got to dig deep like you and I have experienced, is so that you can own who you really are and then go pay your life forward. Because my story, what I realized in the end, I started doing started getting involved with volunteering to come in and do faith-based spiritual growth ministry to the women in Nurture Block.
Okay.
Cell block into Nurture Block.
Right.
And so as soon as I went into the cell blocks, I kind of just had this epiphany this is Marine Corps boot camp. This looks like
I remember you when we first met. You was breaking that down to me.
Yes. And then
of the similarities of the
Yes.
boot camp and the prisons.
Yep. So I just started declaring these are warriors and leaders. And I said, if you can give me an opportunity, I will share what's inside me to women. I will share with them what I have learned, what I have journeyed through, because I have a program. So it's something personally that's inside me. I did a 90-day coaching on and off for since 2017, life coaching with women of all ages. And, but this was something I got permission from our chaplain. And I said, can I do my coaching program with the women? And they said, yes. So I said, okay, so this is what we do. So we get 12 weeks with each group of women, up to 12. They try to put around the table. And it's part of their city support services program. And we just go at it. We just go at it. And then other volunteers, of course, right? And they get a graduation ceremony and all these things. But there was something that, for me, I was like, I've fallen in love with these women. This is my purpose. This is my passion. Empowerment of women, motivation. You know, you go into re-entry and you might be able to emulate with this, but where's the voice of encouragement and motivation for you? If you do, you know, you have to go to I'm learning the whole system, right? Being
right.
Like who's who in all this, you know, program people.
You're starting to see all the different people when somebody's coming out on parole or probation.
Yes.
And those who's coming out have to deal with this person, that person, and all these other people. And
I was very fortunate to attend last year in July, the National Conference or Convention for Mental Health Professionals in the Corrections. And while I was in all those sessions, and I'm like, sometimes the way God leads my steps is he has to go show me things. So he puts me places and then I go, okay, what do you want me to see here? And we were in one of the sessions for childhood adverse experiences. There's programs that are being embedded now, 15-week courses for men, right, to understand that they're trauma information, trauma informed, understanding why there's this cycle and pattern of things in a person's life, the repeat of incarceration, obviously, but it's really, for me and what I've gone through, it was like I finally got the label for it. Childhood adverse experiences, called ACE. Yeah. And there's an assessment there. You can assess yourself. If you are 6 or higher, you learn that you're full of trauma that needs healing, that needs inner healing. You have to learn about your identity, and then I move into purpose. So I have a 3-phase coaching program that helps a woman walk through this path. So you take a free assessment, and I took my assessment and I found out I was 10 out of 10. And on
the assessment?
Yes. And I went, wow, okay, this is making perfect sense. That's why, you know, then you're learning all the scientific behind it is, you know, this is the things that, you know, beloved Oprah discussed in her show, you know, many years ago. You know, she had childhood adverse experiences. Our cognitive thinking gets impaired. We have juvenile delinquency issues, which creates the repetitive in and out. Sometimes it's only by what you've been born into. You know, we were not, you know, our family, we don't get to choose, but we do get to choose later if you want to receive healing and then walk into purpose.
Exactly.
To stop that this repetitive nature. But the key for me was just getting knowledge and understanding about everything, and then learning about, the whole process of, the cognitive behavior side of things, the corrections department, the reentry and parole. And so I'm excited for this next phase because, like I said, I had the shell, I had the exterior of a program, but now I'm able to put it in there and actually make it official and see that this is something that we need, that extra piece of motivation and encouragement and a leadership development program. When have you ever heard of correctional departments saying, well, let's change inmate to leader. Let's even change the way our vocabulary. I've seen vision. I'm like, do you know how impactful we could change the way the impunitive systems are? Even the buildings. I wish they could put positive affirmations on the blank walls of the jail cells.
In some institutions I've been in, they had them on the walls. Maybe not throughout the whole prison, but like in the education departments and things of that nature. But that would be a good idea, going through all the walls throughout the institution. I think that is a good idea. One question I had to ask, with you doing the work on the inside and also helping out on the reentry phase as they, the things that they need help with, and on the outside as well, what has been an eye opener for you doing in that process and working in that process?
The eye opener obviously is support. So much support is needed. I met you, and only online, right? Because all the research and learning who's who and finding other people doing, the passionate things that you desire to do or be a part of this whole, the other gentleman, Andre Pert of Untapped Solutions, doing amazing things. And the stories how, formerly incarcerated will come out and only have a $30 bus ticket to get home and then see you later, bye, and if people aren't tied to a drug program and they just go back, they have to go back to their former environments, or they just go back to the same cycle of things or the same people, or they got to go back home, or the bridges are broken, and doesn't seem to be a soft landing for the ones that aren't able to get into a program. There's not a soft landing for them for their housing. There's not a soft landing for them to get to a soft landing and then transition into a program or into the housing, and then getting rides, work. Obviously, work is another thing. It's that stigma of felon. I get it. I know there's laws. But if, like Mr. Pert with Untapped Solutions, I'm following that whole organization, and it's like, wow, if we can get justice impacted people work under 30 days and people that are willing. And I'm reaching out to my own local community and meeting other people who were formerly incarcerated with, commercial cleaning businesses and their lives being turned around, and I'm saying, hey, would you be willing to interview some of the women that I knew that got out and now they're looking for work? And they're saying, absolutely. I'm meeting other work people, organizations that are willing to employ people right away. And so that was kind of because you're trying to, empathize and have compassion for the struggle that people have right at that place of just getting out at midnight and not having a ride and having to walk and throw your stuff in bushes and wait to come back the next day to go get it. Wow.
It's a lot of different. That immediate release is serious. That immediate release, That's why I chose to go on the inside and to kind of clear up that gray area right there, that to be prepared. So when you get out, you already know where you're going, how you get in there. You got the information or the connections to the other resources that you need, whether it's housing, transportation, jobs. Even with the jobs, getting you out and getting you right into an employment that matches your strengths as well,
Yes.
and things of that nature. So you don't have that um, immediate release fright, not knowing what you're gonna do in this area of your life or that area of life. If I was to get released, like you said, at 12 o'clock at night, how am I gonna get there? Make sure I have that ride. Them little things like that people might overlook, but them things occur, and them things are important, and them things be one of the major reasons why people instantly go back to doing what they was doing that led to them getting incarcerated.
Yeah. And so I just want to say, anybody that's listening, I just want to say that I know that must be so hard, and I'm empathizing. I cannot imagine just having to deal with that, right then and there at that moment, because you want to be welcomed. You want to be welcomed, and somebody caring for you at that moment. But that's something. I have some ideas. To help. You got to start where you're at, right? Start somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Always like, what do you have in your hand? What do you have in your hand? Or look at your hands. Look at your hands and say, these hands are made for work. Obviously we have to work in order to eat, but how do I dig deep inside myself and start inner reflecting on what are my gifts? What are my talents? One of the things I'll tell you, just as a key, as an encouragement, a key that you can take away. Where do you even begin? Well, who am I? What am I called to do in this life? Look back a little bit on your childhood, the positive things. I remember when I was a child, two things. I would pretend to put a towel on my head and spin around and pretend like I was a princess, number one, that I had long hair, and a towel over my head and play.
Yeah.
I was only child, so I had to be creative, right? But then there was a time, many times, I would, number two, I would sit for hours, Indian style, and listen to radio. And I've had radio programs. I've spoken before on, platforms and things like that. But I would always listen to radio. So it was communications, right? And then I would always pretend that I had a microphone in my hand. And I would say my maiden name, this is Janet, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. And I would pretend to be a newscaster. And I was always singing. So I know, most importantly, and then when I stand in media and communication places, it just lights a fire in me. And I was realizing, when you look at different spheres, for your listeners, when you look at the different mountains of the world, what is a mountain? Media and communications, education, government, business, arts and entertainment, right? These are several mountains that we must discover what's inside of us where we belong in each mountain. If you're a business head, you're a leader, you got strong shoulders and you got a sharp mind, and you're thinking cautious type, right? You're always thinking, you're an analytical thinker, right? You belong in certain spheres of influence. Business and government, use the skills. You have skills, you have untapped talent that you have to discover. And that's why, you're in there teaching your program, and I can't wait to teach mine, because it's very, very impactful for women, and train and assess them and let you see yourself on paper, and then it's just going to wake you up, and you're going to get so on fire. And then guess what? There's training, there's benefits, there's organizations that would be more than happy to train you. If you're a technology head, you are a speaker, a communicator, a writer. We helped this writer in this is a collaboration of her devotion notes, handwritten notes, 8 chapters. It's her official book. Only to prove what? Only to prove that there was untapped talent inside her. And so to share that you can come out of any adverse situation and just really propel those gifts and discover those gifts and talents, and then actually go use them for a greater purpose, and then big doors start opening, right? When you're actually in your lane, when you're in the lane and you're, those pieces of your puzzle are finalizing, fulfillment. There's one of the best teachers of discovering the kingdom was Dr. Miles Monroe, the pastor that died in an airplane crash in 2014, I think it was, or 2011, somewhere around there. He said the worst thing in this life, and I totally agree, is for people to die with their dreams. The cemetery is full of dreams, dead vision that never got discovered. And that's something that I couldn't stand going into the jail, was seeing everybody sleeping during the day, like wasted time. It hurt my heart. And I said, oh no, that's why I say, not on my watch, because I'm going to grab your hand and I'm going to make you get up. I'm going to get up. I have a vision, Cardell. I have a vision of women. They're sitting down. They're in a struggle. They're in a battle in their mind and their emotions and their life, period. I see them in a vision that they're just crying their eyes. They're like in this fetal position, or they're just stuck sitting on a couch and they're just weeping and they're just like wringing their hands. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. How do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? And I say, get up, dry your eyes, go take a shower, put on your best clothes, put on some makeup. Every single day you have to push yourself to this, to get out of depression, to get out of this stuck path and cycle, and believe with eyes of faith that you're going somewhere. Because if you it's never going to just fall into your lap. That's why we got to discover, and then we got to move forward. Discover and start, like you've mentioned, I think, networking. You had to network, put yourself with positive people, feed yourself positivity. That's one of the parts of my program. I want to emulate, just pour out such motivation and empowerment that they're just not going to be able to run away from it.
Right.
Entrench yourself in positivity and motivation. And it's
so I ask everyone who comes on the show this one question. It's one of the last questions that I asked on the show. And it highlights, what the show is all about. And that question is, on this journey that you're on, from childhood to now, and we really can't say from this point on, except for what we want to manifest. But from childbirth, from you was born to now, you've been on the journey. You've been through some things, a lot of things, many different places, military, coming from where you come from, the household and environment, this whole journey. If you had one word to describe this journey, what would that one word be, and why?
Persevere.
And why persevere?
Because never quit, never stop, never stop discovering, never stop learning, never stop. There's a reason why we have a will, and our will is to live. But until you get to an age of, think about it. When older, wise people with white hair, they get to their older age, they have an inkling. They know when they want to give up their will. They want to stop the fight of their spirit, of their soul, and then go, I'm done. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. Mm-hmm. And God forbid, we have to make sure where our heart is ready. If there's a return here, these are very dark days, but, you can continue to persevere and learn and grow and never stop. We used to run in the service. I was a runner, but when you're running in the platoon and they're running fast and you got like short feet, it was hard. It was hard. The military never wanted us to quit. It was just this drive in you, a force to be reckoned with. You have to be a force to be reckoned with for good and for the positive and for truth and for purpose. And so we'd have to be in these platoons, and I would start in the front and I'd end up in the back, like one of the last to end my runs, and heavy packs. And, I held my own as a woman in the service. I really hated to see the women that would go, "Can you help me with the strap?" And I'd be like looking at them like, do you know what we have to do to stand our ground and be strong as women in the military and a Marine at that? But, you're starting in life in the platoon, in your platoons. Get back in. Just get back in. Go all in on your life. Go all in your life and say you start in the front of the platoon. Even if you go back, and the drill instructors or other people would come to you. They would grab my arm and help you to run the pace so that you could actually finish the race of your life for good and for purpose. And purpose is another key word for me. Moving forward for purpose. If you have no vision, you perish. Without a vision, you perish. You got to get that vision, but you got to dig deep. You got to close your eyes and you got to say, who am I, and what's this purpose for which I was born? And then you don't give up to your will until later. That's why we always have a drive to get back up. But when we lose hope, that ends up sadly, as God forbid, as suicide, right? When you lose that hope, you lose that will to even keep going. But there's something in me that keeps saying, don't quit. And if you'll look back on your life, I'm sure, as I am sure, there was moments and glimpses of people, positive people in your life, encouraging you to move forward. There was somebody, maybe it was a first grade teacher. Maybe it was a family member. Maybe it was the grandmother or grandfather that was praying for you, or a mentor, or somebody was there that you met and encountered. And they were giving you that eye. Like I had a drill instructor. She gave me an eye like, I got your back. I know where you're from. I know you have a history being Hispanic. One of my drill instructors was Hispanic. And she had this look in her eye in the beginning. And she's like, I got your back. That's who we are, Cardell. We're looking at people in the eye and going, we were able to overcome. And so can you. And we're looking at you in the eye saying, don't give up. Don't give up. There's something for you on the other side of all this opposition. And it's not just for you, really. It's a group of people. It could be a community. That's one of the stories in the Bible is the demoniac, the man that was possessed by demons. He was healed. He came to the end of himself, like he woke up to truth and he wanted to follow. But they said, no, go back and tell the people what happened to you. And do you know later there was a full circle moment where he just planted the seed of faith and shared his transformation, and a whole community later on got changed and transformed. So I always say that paying your life forward, it's not for you. It's for a group of people and others that are called to be encouraged by who you are in your overcoming spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So for those that's going to be tuning in and they want to get a hold of you, find you websites, how do they go about doing that? How do the people go about locating you?
Yes. Okay. So our website is Inspire Coaching Institute. It will be a faith-based peer recovery leadership development program. If you want to plug in and register, we're getting ready to start and launch next month on Monday evenings at 8 p.m. It'll be a Zoom. It'll be so easy for you to just come in, meet other social or justice impacted women, and go on this journey with us together. And you will be so encouraged and inspired. You can go to janetlynngarcia.com and read through everything. Check out the website. This is no fluff. This is no playing. I'm not playing. Not on my watch. Not on my watch. I'm ready. God has equipped me. I'm equipped. I'm ready. I've gone through so much equipping through the years, almost 12 years now. And it's time. I have just it's time. You know, I've pegged you for this, like you, Cardell. I'm so grateful to meet you because I know you work with men and women, but more on the men's side possibly, but women, I have not, in very many of my, the sphere of influence have I met women, but I am excited to meet other women in this sphere of motivation and encouragement. And I have a whole program. We're going to do an intro. It'll be an intro to the program so people will be able to see on that first Monday session what this is all about, whether you want to stay or go. But I'm encouraging you to stay in this group, just like all these social groups that you have on Facebook. You set up a group and you'll be encouraged in that private group. That's what this is all about, and helping you in your re-entry journey. So 12 months, it's a graduated program. I want to make it special. I've put on women retreats in beautiful places. Here we're in my community at beach houses. That was my actual final project for my master's, was a authentic discover who you are weekend retreat for women. It was awesome. It was awesome. I got an A, but God, we can help you. God can help you. We can help you. And so we got a team that's growing. And one of the women that already got out, she's in her program. She's going to be a part of the first class as well. So like I said, you got to start somewhere with what you have. And I have certainly been encouraged to just launch out and start.
And there you have it. You got to start somewhere, and you got to start with what you have. If you're not going to start with what you got, and you're going to wait for wait till it get greater, you're going to be missing a valid opportunity. I'd like to thank you for coming on, sharing your story with us, Janet,
Yes.
with the reentry journey and the work that you're doing and the work that you're setting out to doing. For all of you that that's tuning in, and that are looking for the women that mostly that you're going to be dealing with, you're going to be dealing with women. So all the women that's formerly incarcerated or that work in the space that's tuning into this, please reach out to Janet, build a relationship, build the connections, and so we can help spread the movement and help those that's coming out and on the inside get the help that they need. You have something else that you want to?
Yes, and a couple books that I would like to feature. I've written 3 books so far, and actually 4, and then I have 2 that are in the works right now with the publisher. So this is my first book, Thirst No More. This is Religion, Out of Religion into Relationship. My second book is Free and Unfettered. If you struggle with negative self-talk and feeling unworthy, this is a book that you're want to get a hold of, Free and Unfettered. And the last one that I just released last month is Forgiveness Unleashed, Biblical Insights to Healing Relationships and Conquering Depression. So we just released that up. They're all available on Amazon, but you all can also get the links to these books on the website.
All right, and let them know where they can get the books again.
They're available on my website at janetlynngarcia.com.
janetlynngarcia.com. And so before we go, I just want to say, anything that I can do, anyone I can connect you with or help out any way to help you bring your movement more together and further along, push and help those that's coming out, help those that's on the inside. Anything that I can do, always feel free to reach out to me, and never be afraid to ask. There are a lot of women working in this space as well that working with women that, if you don't know and you want to connect with, or if you need some names, reach out to me as well. I had a lot of women on this podcast as well, that you can partner up with and be a part of your group. I think you should go the retreats. I think the retreats, you got to keep that, since you got an aid for it. You're gonna have to keep that as part of your thing, because I think that'd be real important, especially for those coming out, get an opportunity to go through the program, meeting on the Monday nights, and then at the end of it, everyone meets in person, comes together, and really feel that love, that support, and that backup, that I'm here for you, that look. You really feeling that look. So I wish you nothing but the best in your work, and I'm always here. If you need any kind of guidance, if you want to connect, network, and put some things together, feel free to reach out. I want to say thank you for coming on the reentry journey, and I also want to give you a huge thank you for the work that you're doing, and will continue to do. And maybe in 2 years from now, you can come back on and talk about where you at now. And I would love to see that happen. And then we can look back and say, yeah, remember 2 years ago, you said you was going to do that. And so once again, thank you for coming on the reentry journey. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Cardell. God bless you and your listeners and everybody. A couple things, podcasts. I want to start a national podcast on this, and get some support there. And then secondly is I'm just looking forward to connecting with others and getting involved. And I mean, this is big. This is big. This has nothing to do with me. And in 2 years from now, I'm going to be telling you about this person got out, this person's done, it's going to be all about the people, all about the women that we can help, and seeing all the good that's going to come out of them as well. So there'll be just stories upon stories upon stories. That's the vision that I see.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Reentry Journey. I am your host, Cardell Sims, and thank you to our guest, Ms. Janet Lynn Garcia, for coming on, sharing her journey and her works today with the Reentry Journey. And for those of you that's watching on the inside, remember, don't let the limitations of your background reduce the height of your potential, and that reentry starts on the inside of prison and of self. And I'll see you in the next episode. And until the journey. What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating.
Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion.
Rebirth.
Intentional.
It's bigger than just walking down your probation and parole. It's changing your mindset, lifestyle, and never returning to prison again. It's the reentry journey with Cardell Sims.